Hi, I'm Steve Perkins, the Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society, and today we have a very interesting object to look at with you. It came into our collection a few years ago, and it represents so many different parts of our history on many different levels, and that's what I really like about exploring objects. So let's just take it at its face value. It is a time clock. It's meant for employees to clock in, clock out for lunch, clock back in, and then clock out in the evening. That has 4 different notches. That's what it lets it do. But why a time clock? So this dates to the early 20th century. Time clocks of this type started to be developed in the 1880s, and this kind of goes along with the industrialization of our country, and especially with Vermont. It really represents that change from an agrarian lifestyle where your work was dictated by the light of the day or the season or what needed to be done. Instead, your day starts to be dictated by when you punch in and when you punch out. Employers wanted more and more to have control over when their employees entered the factory and when they left so that they could appropriately account for their time. So now we'll go one step deeper to this. This clock came from the Porter Screen Company. The Porter Screen Company was founded in Burlington in the 1880s by a guy with the last name of Porter, and it made use of all of this incredible hardwood that was coming out of the Vermont forests and the Canadian forests and was being shipped into Burlington and sawn in lumber mills there and transshipped. So that company took a lot of that lumber and started making wooden window screens. So if you live in an old house or you've seen an old house, you open a sash window and you put a expandable screen in there and then close the window. Those are the screens that the Porter Screen Company really made their money on. Over time, they started to develop all sorts of fancy screens and screen doors and custom screens, but all of them were based on the wood products that were coming out of this region. It moved from Burlington to Winooski and ultimately built a huge factory, the largest screen factory in the world, in 1911 on what's now Spring Street in Winooski. Part of that building is still there. It's now senior housing. It was in business until 1953. The post-World War II years, we saw a decline in wood production in our forests and in the Canadian forests that ship through Burlington, and then a rise in readily available metal. And I think the aluminum window screen really put the wooden window screen out of business. So what was once the largest screen manufacturer in the world, located right here in Vermont, employed hundreds and hundreds of people over time, went out of business in 1953. The time clock stayed in the building, and one of the later owners of the property donated it to the Vermont Historical Society. So now let's dive even deeper into the time clock itself. We know, because it's printed right on it, that it was made in 1919, and it was produced by the International Time Recording Company. And this was a company that owned a patent for these clocks that accurately recorded employees' time. Now, by 1919, this company had been bought up. And so we're talking about this age of amalgamation, this age of these corporate titans, and some people call them robber barons who bought up companies and brought them all together. So this was part of an amalgamated company. You can see the logo or monogram for this amalgamated company here on the face of the clock. CTR, Computing, Tabulating, and Recording Company. The president of this company at the time that this was made was Thomas J. Watson. And if you know that name, you know that eventually he became president of a company called IBM. So Computing, Tabulating, and Recording Company in 1924, they changed their name to International Business Machines. It included automated scales and very early calculators and, of course, time clocks. As we all know, they very quickly moved into tabulation as their main form of business and ultimately into computing. And of course, that brings us full circle back to Vermont, where IBM established a very large plant in Essex and became one of the largest employers in our state and really driving the tech industry for the world. So all of this in this one object here at the Vermont Historical Society. If you want to learn more, visit our website, vermonthistoria.org. please come and visit us here in Barre. You can look at this object or follow us on social media.